All right, so welcome to the Boiler Basketball Breakdown podcast show, whatever you want to call it. Today, I'm joined by Riley Demaree. Am I saying that
Yes.
right?
It's
Close?
Riley Demaree. It's simpler than you think it is.
Okay,
Yeah,
Demaree. It's simple. So, Riley, how you doing, man? Good to have you on.
I'm doing good, man. Excited to actually have like some film to talk about. Like there's been so
Mm,
much hype. I'm tired of talking about hype. Like we actually had a game to watch, so I'm pumped.
absolutely, man. I'm excited to talk a little bit about the game last night. Like I've been doing these see like player breakdowns, and it's like you're right, it's just all last season's film, and you're projecting, and to some degree that's we're still going to be projecting here because
Absolutely.
the game against UIndy didn't count. And let's talk about that game. So Purdue 86-64 win over Indianapolis in the exhibition game at Mackey Arena, first game in a long time where there were fans in Mackey. So just quick recap of the game for anyone who doesn't know. I assume most people do, but Purdue gets out to UIndy gets out to an 11-2 lead. Purdue kind of comes back, settles the ship down a little bit, rights the ship, and then just kind of cruises. It did get to I think 13 in the second half whenever Brandon Newman had his block, and then they kind of pushed it back out to 20. So not the most inspiring against a Division II team. Certainly in a game where it was a packed house. I think announced attendance was like 14,500 or something like that. But a big win, obviously a pretty easy win. Coach Painter was pretty upset after the game. So Riley, just kind of tell me, like, how were you watching this game? Were you at the arena, and then just kind of your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I had a meeting while the game was going on, so I had to watch it back on just the wonderful broadcast that was on Big Ten Plus. That was rough, but
Yeah.
but hey, it was Purdue basketball, so all is good. But man, it was. I kept having to just kind of temper my what I was seeing because it's an exhibition game. We're figuring it out, but I was pretty disheartened. Kind of the slow start. I get it. Fans are back. Most of those players haven't played in front of fans. We started. Ivy and Edie started, and really they were off to a slow start.
Yeah.
And you could tell kind of once some of the experienced guys came in, it kind of settled down a little bit. They went on that run that you said. So it was interesting. I think the fans did have an impact. And I think that the young guys it's going to take them a second to kind of get those jitters out of the way and kind of settle in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a slow start, and we should note it was Thompson, Ivy, Stefanovic, first, and Edie were the starters, which I think were identical to what Painter put out against Providence in the secret scrimmage. And I think just the biggest point of consternation, I guess, is the defensive effort. UIndy played Ohio State a couple of nights ago. Ohio State held them to 46 points. Obviously, they score 64 here. Painter's pretty, as we know, he's honest with the media. And it's very refreshing. It's nice to have a coach like that. And so he comes out and he calls the effort embarrassing, and he's like, "I'm disappointed." I don't know, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was basically like, "I'm disappointed that the fans got to see a good team, and it was UIndy and not Purdue." And so he was, I'm sure he was not happy with the team, and for good reason. It was a disappointing defensive effort when you consider the opponent. I thought UIndy really broke Purdue down off the dribble, and Purdue's wing defenders were pretty undisciplined in terms of, you saw Ivy with a couple of just brutal, gambles that did not pay off whatsoever. Both resulted in a three. One UIndy made, the guy was out of bounds, but again, like, it's a D2 team. So what were your thoughts defensively, and how worried are you about it, I guess, because I think most fans are very worried, but it's just kind of a matter of, they haven't played in a real game. So maybe, you give them a couple weeks, but given that they gave up 89 to Providence in a loss, and now 64 to UIndy, and haven't looked good doing it, I think there's some clear concern.
Yeah, I think it's fair to be worried about. I mean, if you're going to pick one thing to be worried about with this team, it's definitely going to be that. there's, a lot of things to be excited about, but it's definitely where they need to work on. It felt like I was watching North Texas again. Like we cannot stay in front of any of their guards. And it seemed like they got in the paint whenever they wanted. And if we were late rotating over, it led to an open three. And, they were either getting in the paint, getting a shot off, or getting open threes. And it was just that dribble penetration. It was poor communication. It was effort. Like it just didn't look like they were trying hard to stay in front of their, like Eric Hunter Jr. didn't have a great defensive game, which was very surprising. And could be a stamina thing, conditioning. They're getting back into it. I get it. But if we're going to pick one thing that is the one thing to worry about, it's definitely dribble penetration defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's pretty hard to make the like team chemistry excuse because we got 9 guys back, and 2 freshmen, one of whom was one of the better players last night. The other one looked pretty lost, but the dribble penetration, it's kind of tough to understand. I think when you listen to Painter, he's so frustrated because I think he had one quote where it's like, I don't know if it's they're just not listening or do we need to do a better job of coaching? But I think who he was talking about when he said that was really Jaden Ivey and Brandon Newman, because I think despite maybe not the best game last night, like you said, Eric Hunter's a pretty safe bet that he's going to be a good defender night in and night out. I think he might be the only safe bet, but the dribble penetration with Ivy and Newman, who are 2 guys who have the athleticism, have shown flashes at times of lockdown defensive play, but can't seem to do it for the course of an entire game. And I think that's one of the things that really frustrates Painter and kind of frustrates the fans watching that those 2 guys are gambling and not really Newman to some extent, but he still got beat off the dribble. I mean, everyone's getting beat off the dribble. And I think when you have Edey and you have Williams as your 2 centers, you don't have a weak side rim protector. Yeah, Edey's good one-on-one with another big. He gets a lot of block shots. I get that. He's not going to be able to rotate over and, elevate to block a shot if you get beat off the dribble. Williams isn't even good one-on-one against bigs. So.
This is where we're going to realize we actually miss Aaron Wheeler a lot.
Yes,
his
thank you.
To fly over and block those shots and contest it and help in the paint. Maybe Trey Kaufman can get to that kind of place. Who knows? Caleb First doesn't seem like he has quite that athletic ability. Yeah. But Aaron was special in that way, and I think we're going to miss that a little bit.
I think so too. I don't. I mean, it's unfair to really ask Trey to be that good right away. I don't think they can do that. He looked a
little bit lost last night. I think he's an awesome talent. He didn't seem like he was very comfortable last night.
No, he didn't. He didn't. He had a few breakdowns. I thought there was one towards the end of the game where he and Newman didn't communicate, and Trey kind of froze, and then they were supposed to switch, and Trey kind of froze. And
Newman came over to help him, and he had to go back.
He was like, it was just a miscommunication, and that's totally like you're not going to hear me blaming First or Trey Kaufman,
sure.
But it is you make the right point, which is that we actually do need them, especially while Gillis is out, to be a little bit better defensively. I thought First played really well offensively. I love the 2 threes. Obviously, the pick and pop was great, and then he had the other one where Trey found him on a great little skip pass. Hit his free throws for the most part, 3 of 4. Looked very comfortable offensively. Did not look very comfortable defensively. There were a few times where he got just straight beat off the dribble. It didn't look like he got beat off the dribble twice or a few times really by these UIndy guards, and it's like you're thinking to yourself, well, it's a Division II guard doing that, I mean, this is the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think I'll be interested to see how it develops. It's hard to tell right now, like really who to blame on the defensive end because it was just a total team effort. So it'll be interesting as players start to buy in and get it that if I want some minutes, I'm gonna have to lock in on defense because I think Caleb First is, depending on Gillis coming back, I think he's going to have a hard time losing that starting spot. I was really impressed with his efficiency. He played in rhythm. He never forced anything, and his ability to pick and pop and also post up. Like Purdue fans have been talking all year about our 2 big lineup, and we found it. Like it's not Zach and Trey, it's Caleb and Trey. I think if he can figure out some more things on the defensive end, that's going to be an awesome matchup. You had that one where, Trey had the entry pass twice. Trey had entry passes to Caleb.
Yep.
Once Caleb got fouled on the shot, made his free throws. The other
Yep.
time he got fouled on the entry. And I'm like, man, that's gonna be cool if you get some smaller fours. Like he's just gonna crush them, and you have Trey making that pass. You know, it's gonna be in the right place. So I'm really interested to see how that kind of develops.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right with that. And I think just the luxury again of having, oh, okay, so you want to play, whoever, a Brandon Johns, I guess I'm just trying to think of an example, or a Race Thompson who's bigger. Okay, we can put out Gillis and space the floor. You want to
Mhm.
play small ball four, let's say it's IU, it's Jordan Geronimo, somebody like that.
Mhm.
Okay, Caleb's going to bully him down low. So I think that speaks to kind of the versatility that Purdue does
Absolutely.
have, and I agree with you. I don't know how much you got to watch of him at Blackhawk. I watched quite a bit this offseason, and he is just, you could just tell it would translate because he always played off of teammates. He was not
Yep.
the guy who like, okay, give me the ball and get out of the way. It was never that. It was more
Mhm.
that with Trey. So I think there's maybe a bit more
Exactly.
of an adjustment with Trey.
Mhm.
With Caleb, he was fine letting his teammates shoot the ball. He was fine just, okay, here I'm gonna be in the right spot at the right time. Most of his points came off putbacks or just dumped down to the post. So I think he's very comfortable playing off others, and maybe that's something that we kind of underrated because I didn't really know what to expect because I was just worried about his defense, and maybe I still should be. But
Yeah, he definitely knows how to play on a team and play his role, even though he was a star at his school, which is I think that's what Painter loves him. I think that's a big thing
yeah,
why Painter
yeah,
loves him so much is he just he I feel like he's gonna be able to trust Caleb, and he kind of gets where Caleb's head is at, and he can roll with that.
yeah, absolutely. So let's keep talking about a few of these because there's so many like one-on-one positional battles. I think you were right earlier when you said basically that Painter can kind of use defense as you know the incentive, I guess, for to get playing time because
Yeah.
we know everyone's good on offense.
Hmm.
So basically, you're either going to play defense or you're not going to get minutes because there's always going to be, someone kind of nipping at your heels. I'd like to talk about the point guard because I really like what I've seen from Isaiah Thompson. What I saw from him last night, I thought he was really aggressive defensively, and I also thought he looked to push the pace, and of course he does what he does so well, and what Eric Hunter doesn't, which is shoot the basketball 2 for 3 from 3 point. You saw the one where Edie had that sweet little. It was like a half screen, but he knocked the guy over, gave
Yeah.
Thompson just a wide open three. Boom! Of course, you just feel so confident when I think at least I do when he
Yeah.
shoots the ball, and
He's got a
I
pure
just love that
skill.
about him.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's easy to look at him and be like, oh, he's a bad defender. He's really not. I mean, if
He's
there's a
small, but
big
he's not
guy,
bad.
he's
Yeah,
gonna get bullied. Like it happens if you're that size, but like he hounds people, like he plays aggressive. So I don't think he's gonna lose that spot based on his defense unless he just doesn't try. Um, I thought it was interesting how much he played with Ethan Morton. I don't think I expected them to be playing together
I
so
didn't
much
either. I
either.
didn't either.
Yeah.
I think Ethan Morton looked decent last night. I thought he
Mhm.
played a nice game. And we know Painter loves him because he's talked effusively about, praised his passing ability and kind of gone out of his way to praise him in the past, I feel like. And, even if you look at the lineup data from last year, I mean, Thompson and Hunter played a lot together. So
Mhm. That's
I
true.
think Thompson is going to get minutes no matter what.
Right.
I can't
People
figure
are
out
starting to
who.
realize he's probably more of a shooting guard than a point
Yeah,
guard. He's
he
a
is.
combo
He
guard,
is.
and we
He
needed
is.
him to
And
be point guard at certain points. But there's going to be plenty of other people with the ball in their hand where he can probably get more shots off. I would hope off the ball.
yeah, true. And I think how much do you read into the weird kind of, I guess weird in terms of what we maybe expected with the starting lineups, like Thompson starting, and I guess Sasha. I mean, that's not that weird, but I kind of
Yeah,
thought Newman would start. But
it was
what do you?
interesting. I guess there was a lot of shooting around Ivy and Edie.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think any of us were super surprised to see Edie start just from what we've been hearing. I
no,
think Thompson was the big surprise.
yep.
And I don't know what it is. We haven't been in practice, so who knows, what all played into that. But I feel like once the kind of expected starting lineup went in, Purdue played better. So
Yep, I
it'll be
agree.
interesting to see what Painter does Tuesday.
Yeah, I agree. What'd you think about Ivy's game? Because he went 3 of 4 from three, 1 of 5 from the line. Um, he just had a few of those, and if you've watched him enough, he does this where he kind of elongates that Euro step in the lane,
It's
and then
like,
it ends.
where am I going?
Yeah, and it's like okay, and then you just get stripped.
Yeah.
He did that a few times. So, and of course, I mentioned 2 times where he gambled. Was not his best effort defensively. I didn't think he was spectacular. You love to see him hit the threes, but I definitely think he can do a lot more, and I think
Yeah,
he will do a lot
I
more.
think he will. I think the positive there's the threes, and it's, you can say, oh, it's just one game. But I felt like his shooting stroke looked better. He used to kind of, his arm used to kind of flop weird off of
Yeah,
his follow through. And I think Isaiah or PJ Thompson, I think, had said he'd been trying to work him a consistent follow through. So it looked like a better stroke, looked more
yeah,
confident and consistent. So that's good. On the other hand, he didn't really attack the basket as much. It was more of a slow, and then he'd kind of get stuck. And
hmm
he had a couple of times where he's patient and found a good lane. Um, but just in general, the driving for any of our guards wasn't really there. And I don't know exactly what played into that, if it's the screens that are being set, or you're more of a coach than I am, but there just wasn't a lot of our guards getting into paint, and you would have especially expected that to come from Ivy.
yeah. I think it was just you're right. I don't know why that was. It's a little frustrating. I don't know if they were trying to work on some stuff where they kind of
Mhm.
instructed them, but it didn't seem like it based on the post game. I think about based on kind of how disappointed Painter was. I
Yeah.
did think with Ivy there were a few times where you clearly saw them go out of their motion, their traditional motion, and go, let him kind of isolate and drive, or at least have the option to drive. I didn't feel like he did that much. There was the
Yeah.
one play, I don't know if you remember, where he got it off and baseline out of bounds and just took one step, and the defender completely committed on that. Isaiah Thompson's defender completely came over to help just on the one step, and he
Mhm.
just kicked it out for an easy three. I think
Yeah.
you'll see a lot of that because the first step, I mean, we know is so it's electric. I
Yeah.
mean, you gotta slide over. And there
Yeah.
wasn't there one time where he got to the rim, kind of scooped it up, and just didn't fall. I thought that was a
Mhm.
decent take by him, where he kind of just said, "Okay, I'm getting to the
Yeah.
basket here."
I think
But
it's some
you're
of the
right.
actions that led into it. There wasn't a lot of those, curls that you'll see Sasha come off a curl and drive,
Yeah,
or Ivy come off that curl with a head of steam and go to the rim. But you brought up another positive though. I think the passing is gonna be something we see more of from him too.
I think he's a good passer. I do.
Yeah.
I know that he didn't always show it last year, but I think he had enough flashes last year. And look, he's going to turn the ball over. When he gets in the lane, he doesn't always know what to do, and he sometimes makes some bad decisions. But you're going to live with that because I think the upside will be uh, a lot higher. But I can't. I mean, I can't with the gambling in the passing lanes just drives me crazy. I mean, I
Yeah, I
get it
mean,
because when you get one, it's going to be a 360. But come on, man, like, and that's what
yeah,
Painter's talking about. Like, you got to be more disciplined.
yeah. It'll be there at times. I know, like, I don't know exactly the defensive schemes, but I know, we're not a pack line defense, so we want to jump passing lanes when they're there.
Yeah,
And maybe they were just thinking that they were gonna be able to just mess with UIndy and transition and get that kind of stuff.
yeah,
We saw some decent. I thought Sasha went out there and I think he was trying to maybe make up for all the people blaming him on his defense. I thought he at least put some effort. I
he
don't know.
did.
He,
I,
he,
I
had, he had
agree.
like, I started counting his deflections. He had 3 or 4 deflections in the game,
Yeah,
so that's something, But
it's more than a lot of people can say. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
I thought Ivy. Maybe it's just a bit of an like the last time he played, right, was U19 where he was getting any passing lane he wanted. I mean,
Yeah,
but I think he kind of started to realize, okay, this isn't U19, Turkey's U19 team
yeah,
anymore. So that's something I think they're gonna be on him about, no doubt. And I think he's one of those guys where he just gets kind of sees red when he sees that ball, and then he wants to go get it and
yeah,
throw it down. I
absolutely.
totally get that. If I could jump like he could, I'm sure I'd do the
Yeah.
same.
Well, he's
But
got emotion to him, which is going to have positives and negatives. So, like,
yeah,
as much as you and I watching it, when we see him get the ball in his hands and we feel the pressure, like, oh, this is Ivy, this is his moment. He's probably feeling that pressure too, because that's just kind of
absolutely.
who he
Yeah,
is. And so, I think emotionally, he's probably going to have to settle in a little bit
yeah.
and kind of start to hit his stride. We'd love to see more consistency in that. So we'll see what this year holds.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's going to be a guy who really plays up in the big games. Like, you're not going to see him kind of have a performance. Like, he's going to make his free throws against Carolina, against, Nova or Tennessee or whoever it may
Right.
be,
Yeah.
Florida State. Like, I think he's really a gamer, and I love his attitude and mentality. Let's talk about the bigs. I thought Travion played really well overall.
Yeah.
I think that Painter said as much that he would have closed the game. He
Mhm.
definitely played better than Edie. If of course, Edie had the monster run there in the second half. So it was just ridiculous. But Travion did play a really nice overall game. You saw every part of his game. Could score anytime in the post. For some reason, UIndy wasn't doubling. Maybe that was just like, I really don't know why they didn't double on Edie or Travion.
Yeah, that was weird.
But the rebounding was there. He had 4 assists and some really nice assists. The one to Sasha not to Sasha, to First that I mentioned earlier on the kick out, and then that little dive that Kaufman did that he didn't finish, but that was a really nice pass as well. And then the 3 steals, which was nice. I thought he was active defensively. I didn't have as many kind of miscommunications as I think we've seen from him in the past, where you kind of look back and someone looking at him like, with the hands up. And I think I remember Gillis doing that so many times last year, just what are you doing, man? And so he didn't have a lot of those, granted, to UIndy.
Yeah, he seemed to recover a little bit better on ball screens. Purdue will kind of do that brief trap, and then they've got to get back over, and seemed to do better about that. I think just his patience was awesome. Like, he didn't force anything. He took what came to him. He found great passes. I think there's just the one play that Painter mentioned where he decided to kind of shoot a little fade away, and it was like, why are you doing that when you can just get the bucket that you can get? But I thought his patience was cool, and just his stability, and like you said, he would have finished that game and had one of those classic Travion monster second halves.
Oh, absolutely. I loved his game last night, and I think certainly seeing Edie get the start has to be a bit of a motivating factor, right? I mean, that's the other thing that we always talk about, how this is a problem, having this much depth, but maybe it can kind of push these guys. You saw Hunter come in and play with a lot of energy, had that really nice coast-to-coast finish. And then Edie, of course, struggled a little bit early, but I thought, of course, in that second half, just you saw the potential, the ceiling, I guess, of Edie when he's just completely locked in. And then to hear him afterwards so hard on himself. I don't know if you heard that post game.
I watched that.
He was basically like, I was so bad. And I'm like, okay, you had 20 and 5.
He was 8 for 12, which when I saw that in the box score, I was like, okay, that was kind of better than I thought.
Yeah.
He kind of just missed a few shots early on, but he can dribble now, which impressed me. Last year, anytime he put the ball down, it was getting stripped. But like 1 or 2 dribbles, he got exactly where he wanted to be. And it looked like, even though he missed some of those bunnies, it looked like he had been working on kind of that touch around the rim, which of course Purdue is going to do with their bigs. But I was overall encouraged that you can look at this and be like, well, it's the same game he had versus Liberty last year, but really,
but it's a great game. I mean,
it was a great game, and the dribbling, and I think he's worked on his shooting touch, and I think it's gonna be really good.
Yeah, and just being able to have one of those guys on the floor at all times. I think with, a team like, I keep going to Indiana because that's a rival, but like if Trey Jackson-Davis gets in foul trouble, what are you going to do? You're in trouble. Either you're going Race at the 5 or you're bringing in Durr, who I think is not as skilled as some of these guys. And I think Edie, like, I love the dribbling. Like you said, I love the patience. He looked more like Travion tonight in a good way. With the just one methodical dribble, because they weren't doubling. Granted, they didn't make him make decisions. The one time they did, I don't know if you remember, he got doubled and then just like fired a pass off of Sasha out of bounds. And I was like, because he had Thompson on a skip wide open on the other side. And I was like, just wait one more second. But of course, his passing is something that he's continuing to work on. And I'm sure they're harping on him about that. But
just his patience in those doubles. I think sometimes he doesn't collect himself enough to look for a pass or, pivot into a good position to get a shot. I think there's a little bit more of that. It was kind of funny when I wasn't listening to the broadcast. We have to fill me on what happened when he kind of shoved that guy, and there's 2 taps.
Yeah. So he got it inside, and then he basically, this was after he'd scored a bunch in a row. He got fouled like 2 or 3 times. They were just hacking him. So then he just shoves the guy and started like, he made this little face at him. He was like, what are you doing? Like, and then he ended up getting like I guess it was a contact tech, which is only a college thing. But it was just funny to see him. Maybe the point we haven't made is just the mean streak that he has now that he maybe didn't have in that Liberty game and early on in that season last year. I think Canada, being able to play for Canada and show his dominance. I mean, he's mean, and he's not going to take crap from anybody anymore.
Yeah, and he wants to get better. He's working hard. Like, and you don't the qualities he has, those intangible qualities you don't see in most 7-footers. You know what I
No,
mean? Like, he
no.
really wants to get better and be the best. He doesn't want to just be tall.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really cool to see if we have him for 1 more year, 2 more years, whatever it is. It's
So
going to be awesome.
two would be just incredible.
Yeah.
Because I mean, just his linear progression since he started playing in 10th grade has just been unbelievable.
Yeah. Which I think
Um,
is kind of why he may leave early, because NBA's scouts would love to see that progression in a young player.
yep.
But we'll see. We'll see.
And he's such, I mean, just the mobility, the
Mhm.
the coordination, really, I guess is the best word. When you look at the guys we've had in the past, they look like cross country runners.
Yeah.
This guy, he's huge. I mean, it's unbelievable. I get it. Like UIndy, like of course they don't have the size of other teams will play. Some people will be able to neutralize him a little bit better, but then we can just bring Travion in. So I that to me was it wasn't like it wasn't anything I didn't expect. It was exactly what
Yeah.
I expected, which is dominance from both of
Yeah.
them. And I love to see that. I thought the wing rotation. So when I say that, I guess I mean Newman, Sasha, and Morton.
Mhm.
Um, I think Newman offensively showed his total package with. I don't know if you saw the one where I don't know exact. I was doing my rewatch and kind of like just trying to figure out who did this, whether it was Coach Terry Johnson, who's been running the offense, or if it was just a decision from Newman and Kaufman, but he kind of comes across and gets the ball on the wing like usual when they start their action. But then he just gives it immediately back to Hunter, flares back the other way, gets a little pick from Kaufman and gets the three. And I just love that. And I thought just he can be such a dynamic off ball player
Yeah.
if he's moving off the ball and really
Yep.
committed to that. We know Sasha's so good at that. His shots just didn't really fall last night. But if Newman can do a little bit more of that, I think his ceiling, I mean, the one catch and shoot three he had, it just gets up so quick, and
It does. You give
it's
him
so
any space.
pure.
Yeah. I
I
think
just
I
thought
think he's probably
offensively he was great. Yeah.
realized that more. That off ball is really where he can get some points. I mean, he's got a good kind of first step. He's not a great ball handler, but he can use his athleticism to get to the rim. He's got an elite pump fake. I
Yeah.
remember watching
Ooh,
that last year. He'd make people dance with that pump fake. But I
yeah.
think really, if he just hones in on the off ball and trusting the flow of the offense and his teammates,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to get the ball. He's going to get shots up. And with Newman, really, the more shots he hits, the more he buys it on defense, which isn't
Yeah.
ideal.
Yeah.
But he seemed to actually be more aware. There's moments last season where he would just kind of check out and lose his guys. So,
Yep.
you
Yep.
hope for more consistency in that too.
Yeah, but I also didn't find any. I didn't think. I don't think I really found any that I would like clearly blame him for defensively,
True.
which is good because he had
Yeah.
definitely had a few of those last year. Maybe I'm missing something, but it did feel like he was one of the better ones, which is not saying much, of
Yeah.
course, defensively. But yeah, I just think I don't know. I love his game. I think he's
Yeah.
really got the potential to be a high level Big Ten player.
For
The
sure.
block was great, obviously. I think I wrote like Purdue just has like a number of guys that can make plays like that can bail them out. And I know that's
Yeah.
not great because sometimes when you're making plays like that, you have to bail somebody out. That one was just kind of a fast break, but they're gonna have some plays where it's like, okay, we got an open layup. Oh, okay, actually no, we don't. I just flew in and blocked it. So I think that was cool to see. I thought, yeah, Sasha, he was all right. I mean, the threes weren't falling, and I think he just was kind of in that mode of like, okay, they're not falling, so I'm just going to keep shooting them.
Yeah.
He's really, and you might not agree with me on this. I find him to be an extremely underrated passer. I think the way he can throw those entry passes into the post, which is such a staple of the offense, really, he's probably one of the best on the team, and they trust him a lot to throw those little high-low, entry passes. And he did it again last night, where he just knows I just find him to be an incredibly intelligent player and kind of just does all the right things.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think it is probably underrated. It's not flashy. I think he makes good entry passes. He doesn't turn over a lot. He
Yeah.
had 2 turnovers last night. But I'd like to see him drive into the paint more. We saw one play where he got that nice little floater. We saw a
Yeah,
lot
that
of
was
that
nice.
last year. I
Yeah.
hope that stays in his game, because that's just going to give him even more space. Yeah, I think people have just been talking too much about his poor defensive performance. That I think last year I felt like first few games he was about to just blow up and just have an awesome year, and then COVID and everything else.
Yeah.
So I hope he can kind of pick up this year and just have an awesome senior year.
Yeah, I think he can. So do you gut feeling who starts between him and Newman?
Um, on Tuesday, I think Sasha's still going to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think he'll start. I think he showed enough effort, and Newman will be right there. But you've also got to balance the scoring out too. Like we've got plenty of scores, and obviously Newman and Sasha are both going to be looking for threes, but I think you just trust Sasha a little bit more in the flow of the offense.
Yeah,
And
I
you get
agree.
it to Ivy and whoever's going to be at the 5.
Yep, I agree with that. I think Sasha will start until Newman is so good that
Mhm.
you just can't, and that may come, it may not. Maybe he obviously has to be consistent defensively for that to happen. Just quickly on Morton, who I thought played a nice game, played really aggressively defensively,
Mhm.
kind of looked like a guy who knew, he needs to do something to impress the coaches to get minutes
Yep.
because it's so crowded. I don't. I just find it hard to see a big role for him as much as
Mhm.
Painter has talked about. Unless he turns into just a knockdown shooter. I think he does a lot of subtle things really well. On the one, I tweeted it where Hunter had that coast to coast. Morton made a great play where he got the rebound and just immediately,
Yep.
pushed it to Hunter, and he's so good at that. I think that's
Mhm.
one of his great skills that really not that many people have. But if he's what you said earlier that he was playing with Thompson, that actually kind of concerns me as far as his minutes because I thought he might be taking Thompson's minutes.
Mhm.
That doesn't look to be the case because I think Thompson's just holding him off at this point. Um, what do you think about Morton? I love his game. I wish there was more of a role, but maybe
Yeah.
that'll come next year. I don't know.
Yeah, I really liked just his he didn't force anything, but he played aggressive defense. He's big.
He
Like
is big. Yeah.
and if he can stay in front of these smaller guards, that'd be a great asset. No, I just thought he was patient. I thought he just showed good leadership, just seeing his attitude around his teammates as a guy who doesn't know what his role is going to be, and nothing's guaranteed anyways. But he seemed pretty vocal with his teammates, getting
Yeah.
everybody pulled up and pumping people up. So, I think, yeah, like you said, I think if he can become a knockdown shooter, that would open up a role for him, or just like, a plus defender where,
Yeah.
we need some size, we need somebody who can stay in front of a guard. So, he hasn't really shown a whole lot of either of those yet. We'll see. But I think, if he is fighting Isaiah for it, Isaiah's got the edge with the shooting. And yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Isaiah looked really good. I think just the shooting, like you said, he's just kind of that. I don't know if you've seen like Emmanuel quickly play, but kind of that undersized, like shooting, like he's the point guard size, but shooting, he plays like a shooting guard, like you
Yeah.
said earlier. Just quickly, I guess we're kind of talking about each player here, so let's touch on Kaufman Wren, who did knock down a three at the very end of the game, and he I felt had a few pretty bad defensive breakdowns, and just Painter said in the Providence game, he had some good looks and just didn't make the most of his opportunities, and maybe that's kind of a good phrase for where he's at, just kind of not making the most of his opportunities,
Mm.
especially when you compare him to first. But I'm still, I was talking to some friends today who go here at Purdue, and they were like, "Well, you think he's going to redshirt?" And I was like, absolutely not. He's a top 40 player who
Yeah.
you don't do that in the transfer portal era.
Yeah.
If he thought he was going to get a ton of minutes coming in here, I think even he would admit that's not the case. So I think it's just a matter of being patient. He's going to get some spots. And I guarantee you, like, there will be a Big Ten game this year where he is playing well. Painter rides him, sticks with him. He gets 25 minutes or whatever and plays
Yeah.
a big role. I just think that's going to be few and far between.
Yeah, it seems like his strength, even though he hasn't really shown it in any of the Suzy games, is going to be scoring.
Yeah.
He hit that three. He kind of forced a shot early in a shot clock where he kind of drove and spun into a defender and tried to shoot over him and missed it. I mean, it looked like kind of a confident move, but probably forced it. And
Yeah.
Painter's not going to love to see that. So
Right.
he seemed to be a decent one-on-one defender. But again, he's got to learn, the systems and to communicate and rotate. So, I think we'll see when Gillis comes back and what happens. But I feel like he's probably not going to get a ton of minutes. If I was to guess, I think Gillis and First are going to get the minutes of the 4.
Yeah, I think I've talked to some people who I think this is definitely not the whole fan base, just kind of a few people I've talked to are kind of underrating Gillis. I think he's a really good player, really good defender. I thought probably Purdue's second best defender last season, all in all, behind Eric Hunter. And just his versatility, his strength. When you're a big guy, you really can't take him down low. I mean, yes, you can turn and shoot over him, but he's so strong.
Yeah, he doesn't back down.
No, and there's just his quickness and then the fact that he's also, by the way, a 35% 3-point shooter and may improve on that. So I think he
great cutter too. Quick
oh
cutter.
God, I love Mason Gillis. I'm the biggest Mason Gillis apologist. Everything else notwithstanding, but really like Mason Gillis. I think he will play a big role. I think the First Gillis thing will be really interesting because I think First is clearly more skilled offensive player, but Gillis is miles ahead defensively, and so can First kind of close that gap. I don't know. Do you have anything else? I thought just it's an exhibition game that the defense didn't look good, but they scored a lot of points. I mean,
yeah, I thought it was interesting. Again, it's one game. We shot 44% from 3, and Sasha only hit 1 3.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if we can keep doing stuff like that, that's awesome. Like if we can be a real 3-point shooting team this year, that's going to be awesome. Right now, Painter kind of already said it, this isn't a Final Four team. Like this isn't a Big Ten championship team right now. So they haven't shown that yet. And as much as we can hype up in the preseason until they show it, we'll see. And I think, not that we should totally deplete our expectations, but like, I think it was a very humbling experience of like, hey, like they've got a lot of work to do. It's hard to do these things that everybody's hyping them up about. So right now they're not there, but I think they can get there still.
I agree. I think I would be, lying if I said the dribble penetration didn't concern me, especially against, again, UIndy. Like you said, it did look like North Texas. But there's so much time. It's impossible, or it's unfair, I guess is a better word, to kind of just define this team right now. They have so long to go. It's crazy that we're even talking about that in these, grandiose terms, but that's how college fan bases are.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. So I appreciate you coming on. I don't really have anything else. Do you have any expectations for Bellarmine? I don't know much about him at all. I'm just kind of excited to see a full Mackey again, and obviously we saw last night, but for a real game.
Yeah, I just would love to see us come out with a strong start with a lot of energy.
Yes, please.
Trying hard. I think we're going to win. We should win, obviously. But if we could just pick one improvement, let's just at least come out with some energy and trying hard. So
I think, and I think you'd agree, the level of concern will rise tremendously if they don't come out with effort defensively in that game because of everything that everyone's been saying. And just what's great about having Matt Painter as your coach is you kind of always know what he's telling the players, because he's basically tells it to the media. So, we know he's getting on his guys. And again, he sounded like he literally had no idea other than First who he's starting against Bellarmine.
That was funny.
Which was funny. He's a cool guy. And I think I love his post-game stuff. And we'll see who he goes with. I think there's obviously a lot of good options. Why don't you tell everybody where they can follow you on Twitter? Because I really like your stuff on there. I think people should definitely follow you.
Yeah, for sure. You can just find me. It's just my full name at Riley Demaree on Twitter. And I don't have a blog or anything like that. I just try to put everything in the Twitter feed, some breakdowns and highlights and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'd appreciate a follow.
All right. Appreciate you coming on, Riley.
Thanks, man.